Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Leah over at EurekaCrystalBeads.com bringing you another tutorial video. If you like what you see here, make sure to check out our channel and subscribe, and you can hit that little notification bell and it will let you know whenever we post a new video. So what I'm going to do today is a technique video, and it's going to be on how to do a wrapped loop. Now this is a really great technique because it's utilized in earrings, in necklaces, in bracelets, and all sorts of jewelry, and it's a loop that's never going to come open on you, which is great. You don't have to worry about it opening up like some loops can tend to do when they're not wrapped shut. So what I'm going to be working with here, and again, this is just a technique video, so I'm not going to be completing a full pair of earrings, but I'm going to be using an 8mm Swarovski pearl here in iridescent green, and it is absolutely stunning. It's one of my favorite color pearls. I have a sterling silver head pin here, as well as a little sterling silver ear wire, and we'll link you to all of these products on our website if you want to replicate this. And the tools that I'm going to be using are a pair of chain nose pliers, and you know that they're chain nose because they are flat inside, but they do taper to a point. That's very important. And I'm going to be using round nose pliers, and the round nose pliers, the jaws actually look like two ice cream cones. There's no flat edges. They are just round all the way around. And then I have my side cutter here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my head pin, and this is a 24 gauge head pin. I'm just going to stick my bead on it. Now this is actually a bit longer than I need for this video, but I've been doing this for a while, so I am able to use less wire to do my wraps. You may find it easier to start off by having more wire here because you'll have a little bit more to hold on to, so it's going to make learning how to perfect your wire wraps a little bit easier. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to grab the wire right above the bead. Now, as far as where my pliers are, how far into the jaw of my pliers, rather, I need to be holding that wire, that just determines how big the space is going to be that's left behind when we bend this wire. So this is going to be a little space, that's going to be a big space. Now, the amount of space here is going to be taken up by wired wraps, so we really don't need about 15 wraps there. So we're just going to go towards the very tip of our pliers, and you're going to bend your wire into a right angle. And it's really important that it's a perfect right angle. That's what's going to keep our wraps nice and neat, and I'm all about perfection, especially when it comes to a lovely simple earring with just a single bead, a single lovely bead. A messy wire wrap is really going to show up, so you want it to be nice and clean. So again, you'll see that little space that we left behind, I call it wiggle room, and that wiggle room is going to be filled up with wired wraps. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to grab right at that corner. I'm technically grabbing the longer piece of wire here, but I'm pushing my pliers all the way to the front of that little piece there. And as far as how you hold it in your hands, that's just whatever is comfortable for you. I tend to hold my wire like this, or my pliers like that. As far as where on in the jaw of the pliers we hold our wire, that just determines how big our loop is going to be. We can have a tiny, tiny loop, or we can have a really big loop. There's really no particular need to have a really big loop here. So we're going to go just a little bit of the way in. Now, I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to start to wrap it around the jaw of the pliers. And I want to go all the way around. So I started with my wire like this, and I want to end with my wire like this. But you'll see that the bottom jaw of the pliers is a little in the way, so you might just have to shift your pliers out of the way so that way you can keep going. You want to end with that same 90-degree angle that we started with. That's really important for a nice clean wrap. Now, something you might notice is that now that we have this loop, our loop is a little off to the side there. Ideally, what we want to see is something that looks like a lollipop on top of a lollipop stick, nice and centered. And you can see mine's a little bit off to the side. So that's really easy to fix. You just put the loop back onto your pliers and you just roll it over till it looks centered, and then just make sure to bring this back down to that 90-degree angle. And here we have our perfect little lollipop. All right, now the next step is we're going to go back to our chain nose pliers. And if you're ever not sure what pair of pliers to use, we've made our round shape, so we're done with our round pliers. That's only for making round shapes. So I'm going to go and hold my loop in the jaws of my pliers flat. And I find it easiest to hold this so the wire is pointing away from me. Also in the same direction as my pliers, and you'll notice I'm keeping up with that same 90-degree structure. That's really important. Now, because my little tail of wire here is coming out from the bottom of the other main part of the wire that's coming out of where the bead is, that means I have to keep wrapping towards me. Depending on how you formed your loop, whether you crossed back over in front or behind, will determine whether you're wrapping up like this or wrapping underneath. You'll end up developing your own way, and you'll do it the same way every time. So now I'm going to start to wrap my wire, and I want my first wrap right underneath the actual wired loop. And then each wrap after that is going to get closer and closer to the bead. And you'll notice that as I wrap, I maintain that 90-degree angle, because if you break the 90-degree angle, you're going to get spaces in between your wraps. And if you break your 90-degree angle that way, you're going to overlap the previous wrap that you did. So it's really important just to maintain that 90-degree angle. Go nice and slow, one wrap after the other. That was enough space for about 3 wraps. And now the very last part is going to be to cut the wire off here that you don't need anymore. And you're going to want to use the very tip of your cutter and angle it right down in there. You're not going to want to have it like this, because if you have it switched this way, your blade is further away and you're just going to leave a longer tail there that you have to deal with. So make sure that the blade side is closest. And if your cutters are pretty new, you might send your wire flying. So either cup your hand over it or hold that tail so it doesn't fly across the room. And the very last thing we have to do, because again, I am a perfectionist, which is hopefully why you're watching this video, is that little bit that's left. While you certainly wouldn't feel it against your skin, it could get caught on something like the fabric of your shirt or your hair, or caught in a scarf. So we want to tuck that in. So I'm going to use my chain nose, and I'm going to just boop, tuck it right in. Believe it or not, that can actually be a little tricky. It takes a little practice. You have to get just the right angle, so that way you boop, just tuck it right in. Otherwise it can sometimes twist a little bit, but once you get the hang of it, it is the perfect finishing technique. So the very last thing for this basic earring would just be to go to the ear wire and swivel it open to the side. You always swivel to the side. You never open like this. You always swivel. I'm just going to slide this right on there and swivel it back shut. I have a super basic earring, but really, you know, the point was to learn that wrapped loop. So hopefully that was a good example for you. All right. Thanks for stopping by. This was Leah from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another tutorial video for you.